Do you know how much the gold in front of you is worth? The answer is announced. Over 100 billion Korean won. Priceless gold was buried underground by a mysterious person and covered with thick cement. All this gold remains hidden from the light. During the mysterious process of burying the gold, the news kept mentioning a notoriously corrupt lawyer. He not only stole money from the conglomerate but also got involved in a nationwide shopping gang war. It can be said that he single-handedly caused chaos throughout Korea. The scene shifts to a man angrily blowing his horn. He is a repeatedly defeated, discredited lawyer. Just as his wife, who is still unwell, is about to divorce him, an opportunity for a comeback arises when he takes on a widely entangled murder case today. If he succeeds tonight, Chan Hao could secure substantial interest and has invited his wife and father-in-law to a high-end restaurant on their anniversary. He never would have imagined that this year's almost missed anniversary, after receiving a call from prosecutor Dong Kae when going to the meeting. The restaurant waitress serves him a cup of coffee without paying attention. While driving and sipping his coffee, he suddenly developed a splitting headache as if he were a werewolf about to transform on a full moon night. At that moment, the accident occurred. What kind of dangerous case did Chan Hao get involved in? Let's rewind time to 7 days ago to the main timeline of this corrupt lawyer. A perfect couple, always happy and kind-hearted, they met in school and walked into the marriage chapel together. Their love story and looks are equally enviable. Unfortunately, this beautiful experience did not last until before marriage. Chan Hao, working in the legal profession, felt suffocated as he couldn't find a job, so he opened his own green shop. They also brought in the father-in-law as the offense director, truly initiating a deceitful scheme. The father-in-law and son-in-law began living hard times, and that's not even the end. Chan Hao secretly took family money to invest in virtual currencies. The outcome mirrored a TV drama plot. Recently, a famous Korean virtual currency that Chan Hao invested in collapsed, resulting in a total loss. On March 3rd, he Baoli's company sues on behalf of countless victims to recover losses and avoid being overshadowed by the opposing side. They even borrowed high-interest loans to fight. Confident, Chan Hao came to court, but soon a star began to set. Before the trial even started, he sensed many irregularities. For example, the defendants changed their law firm, and even more so, the judge was replaced. At this point, Chan Hao finally realized he had been outplayed by his opponents. He didn't recover his losses and was still in debt from high-interest loans. Just thinking about it made him feel utterly hopeless. Unfortunately, he was also accountable to other victims who looked down on him. The incompetent plaintiff's lawyer was even more despised than the cunning defendant's lawyer. If the subsequent events hadn't happened, this would have been Chan Hao's darkest hour. At this moment, Mei Hua called, unaware of her husband's high-interest loan dealings. She only heard that losing the case made her furious, and their family was also restricted from bank loans. The downstairs was still not compensated for the water leak's impact. Their marriage entered its 3rd year, with petty quarrels turning goddess Sheila into a fierce housekeeper. In anger, Mei Hua demanded divorce from Chan Hao. He repeatedly tried to persuade her without success and became temperamental, sometimes too lazy to leave and other times undervaluing the situation. Even if we separate, I must live with my father-in-law Mei Bai, unable to care to the baby, and caught in conflict with my daughter. These two men are well aware that if they are to rank within this family of 3, all they can vie for are 2 or 3 prestigious positions that firmly hold the top deals. At night, a frustrated restaurant manager arranged to dine with his friends from student days. He complained that in this sit world, people without money or connections deserve to be bullied. It feels like honest people are being forced to turn bad. Just when Chan Hao was in endless despair, an opportunity arose. Originally, he had planned to stay at the agency for a few days waiting. Unable to come to deliver Chan Hao's laundry, Chan Hao received a call from Hold Hu, the mayor of Juchuan City. His fate also underwent a significant change at that moment. Late at night, Chan Hao drove for a long time to a secluded fishing spot. The restaurant manager hadn't realized that he would encounter such a remote place that very evening. Most met to discuss important matters away from prying eyes, so Hu immediately mentioned the Juchuan University Hospital murder case. Recently, a dam was involved in an accident. The back was smashed open, revealing a hidden power inside. People in the car at that time included lawyer Xiaofu, surgical professor Pan Hu, and Juchuan University director's son, Da Xiong. Suspect Da Chen captured the 3 using gold tactics. Old Hu told them how they were his acquaintances, and the Sunming team has arranged everything. Huvji helped them find a compliant lawyer after some consideration. Old Hu searched for a long time before finding an unnamed lawyer, Chan Hao, who met his own requirements. Xiao Hao, eager to make a comeback, accepted tasks many lawyers refused or feared. While speaking, Old Hu changed his demeanor. His actions were partly true and partly false. Hao may not have met Old Hu's conditions, as his focus on the trio was insincere. This businessman significantly supported Hu's campaign. Now, for every decision Old Hu makes, they have to expose it. Currently, Old Hu is pretending to be tough, but he is actually preparing to eliminate them using this case. The driving records of the accident vehicle are now gone. Old Hu believes this will be a major breakthrough in the case. This case carries great risks but also considerable rewards. Old Hu gave Chang Hao a sum of money while also warning the other party. Compared to before, livelihood issues are more valuable to lawyers. It depends on whether Can Hao can seize this opportunity to commit a major case. Old Hu, who has a deep understanding of Qixun, has completely grasped Can Hao's Qixun if they can't wait for another complete counterattack. If Mei Hao let him go, the loan shark still wouldn't spare him. Chang Hao agreed, quickly found a friend, combined their intelligence and teamed up with his best friend to execute a major operation overnight. The long dark night saw two ambitious individuals chat until very late. The next day, Chang Hao arrived at the prison to visit the trio. The ensuing shocking news greatly surprised him. To the merchant boss, prison was like a royal palace. He nodded and bowed, allocating a large area for their dining, drinking and entertainment. Many people outside the prison walls live a life they can't afford, yet it has become a daily indulgence for these scum and degenerates. Afterwards, Yu Jing created a private conversation space for Number X and the trio. Chang Hao was both obedient and submissive, which made Ma and the trio extremely pleased. Just then, a phone call completely disrupted the mood. The person answering the call, Da Xiong, suspiciously mentioned terms like reporting and lawyer. Xiao Fu saw things declining and quickly sent Chang Hao to leave first. The merchant group was surprised that Chang Hao himself made the call in front of them. Chang Hao had collaborated to stage a scene to locate the dashcam, falsely portraying it as having major problems. Upon leaving, he casually disposed of the listening device in the trash bin. Every move of the merchant group was fully exposed under his surveillance, and soon Chang Hao's side gained a breakthrough. The trio became uneasy as someone had reported matters related to the dashcam. They were deeply anxious, fearing that their secrets might be leaked. In their conversations, it was mentioned that the dashcam was still hidden with Fat Hu's wife, Sister Hu. They also discovered why the merchant group hadn't destroyed the dashcam. They needed to rely on this evidence to control a certain dangerous individual. Men Lan, who was eavesdropping on Chang Hao, realized that the trio might have accomplices. Chang Hao discarded his own findings and the recent recording, then the two of them hurried non-stop to meet Hu Sao. Old Hu, who arrived a step earlier, heard the scream. While preparing to record today, Hu Sao was locked in the dressing room. Chang Hao then forcefully broke in with a fire extinguisher to open the door. While Hu Sao was unconscious, Chang Hao saw a man in black fleeing quickly through the window. When Old Hu invited her and she clearly saw the man's face, Hu Sao was startled. After the two of them appeared to have an unusual relationship, Chang Hao took out the recordings he had captured through his surveillance. The damaged dashcam was on the guard's side. It's hard to say whether the recent attacker was also after the recordings. Under the persuasion of Old Hu, a longtime acquaintance, Hu Sao eventually agreed to hand over the dashcam. Kang Hao also obtained a crucial piece of information from several sources. The untouchable supply was actually the infamous Bao Shi Setan Kong Zai. Old Hu also had an important meeting to attend, so he asked Kan Hao to accompany Hu Sao to retrieve the dashcam. When only the two of them were left, Kan Hao suggested that Hu Sao should hide for the time being. He believed that the recent attack was not a coincidence. Hu Sao told Chang Hao meaningfully, "Otherwise this case might have been the greatest misfortune in my life." Kang Hao's nerves became directly tense. His few words made him realize that this case might involve many unknown and terrifying secrets. At night, Number 3 reviewed the dashcam footage. Professor Q and the trio traveled in a car driven by Fat Tiger when Xiaofu and Da Xiong suddenly attacked Brother Xu. At that moment, when he was asked to retract a certain paper, he emotionally killed Brother Xu. They placed the corpse in a village in Hubei, and then Da Xiong made another phone call to arrange a meeting with someone later. Tan Hao speculated that the phone was empty, but no names were mentioned during the call, lacking solid evidence. Chang Hao was extremely busy, while Mei Hao worried about her husband's absence and wondered how he was doing lately. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Mei Hao laughed, opened her eyes and ran to answer the door. As a result, what came with someone from the court. Not long after, Kan Hao received a call from Mei Ba. They realized the loan shark had sought enforced execution for debts after Mei Hao overheard her father and husband understanding Kan Hao's foolish actions. Suddenly, uncontrollable anger surged. Maya felt helpless without money and nearly killed Chang Hao. He ignored the incoming call and chose another path. Kan Hao went to Zhao Kongzai's trading to sell the driving recorder and felt much more at ease. Late at night, he returned home and took out Hu's money. He vaguely mentioned receiving an answer that turned things around, allowing Mei Hao to finally relax her worried heart. That night, the couple welcomed spring's long-missed warmth. Sounds of neighbors arguing next door like an earthquake while they were half asleep. The next day, Chang Hao faced a severe setback at Kongzai's place. The other party remained unintimidated, leading to Chang Hao's disgraceful ousting. Furious, Kan Hao had no choice but to continue, while Old Hu deceived him by claiming he missed the call yesterday due to a phone malfunction. Next, the plan is set to meet with the prosecutor and submit evidence. We must complete the tasks assigned by Lao Hu flawlessly. After this, the timeline reconnects with the video's opening. On March 3rd, while driving to meet a friend and classmates, I heard the authorities mention a mysterious criminal, a corrupted lawyer. They say this person is involved in many horrifying cases. Just a second ago at the restaurant listening to the radio and gossiping, the next second suddenly had a splitting headache and the accident occurred. Today continues with the second episode of the revenge drama Black Words Lawyer starring Lee Jong-shuo and Lin Yun-a. At the beginning last time, lawyer Mo Liu intended to make a name for himself with this major murder case, but unexpectedly his coffee was called by someone, derailing his plans. Eventually, his severe headache led to an accident and hospitalization. In a moment of distraction, he recalled his own life. His former wife was beautiful and a popular figure at school. Chang Hao always worked hard to make himself. Mei Hao is a better match, resulting in his life being labeled with the same tag of bad luck from then on. Every time he faces important moments, unexpected accidents often occur. In a daze, Kang Hao saw Mei Hao propose a divorce. Kang Hao woke up from his deep sleep and Mei Hao was cautiously thinking about whether she had amnesia. Scattered images flashed through Kang Hao's mind as he prepared to meet prosecutor and classmates to submit homicide evidence before the accident. He immediately asked Mei Hao to help find his phone to contact his classmates, but little did he know that both his phone and car had already been targeted. A mysterious person had robbed Kang Hao's car, including videos of the hospital murders. Subsequently, the mysterious person even went so far as to destroy the entire car. Kang Hao was feeling uneasy and was preparing to leave the hospital early to visit the car factory. However, he was arrested by the police on suspicion, accused of negative reactions to Shui, and Mei Hao chased after him. She promised to rescue her husband and her unwavering attitude was like a lifeline, keeping hold of X number's last breath without collapsing during the metal detention. Kang Hao pieced together the scenes before the accident and finally realized that someone had tampered with his coffee. From the coffee incident to now being arrested, someone has been targeting him. Kang Hao quickly offered to confess under condition that they help him contact Old Hu 4 times. Soon, Kang Hao met Old Hu, who was greatly disappointed. Upon learning that Kang Hao believed he was framed by Kong Zai, the militant mayor immediately deduced that Kang Hao must have discussed the sale price of the murder video with Kong Zai. Because they didn't swing the cage, they were targeted and sabotaged in secret. Lao Hu was very displeased with Kang Hao's betrayal, and the video didn't clearly mention public bonds. Unable to send this enemy to prison together, Lao Hu stood up and left, completely abandoning the Kang Hao faction. Meanwhile, another wave of high-energy giants attacked. The police revealed a large amount of gold, cash, contraband and firearms in the office of number 3. Kang Hao's father-in-law, Mei Ba, was left speechless. The Gongzi couple was in a tense confrontation with the Lao Hu pair, straining their relationship as Gongzi claimed that donating money to dogs still let him remain mayor. Lao Hu's wife, Hu Xiaoqi, was involved in a hit-and-run murder case this year, striking the other party. Gongzi's wife, Sister Kong, immediately intervened to clarify the situation. Seeing the tension escalate, a news report interrupted everyone's quarrel. Gold, cash and contraband were found in Kang Hao's office. The host revealed Kang Hao as a mysterious scammer adept at catching rats, dramatically changing Hu Hekong's expression. It seemed to have a significant connection with this big rat. The highly controversial Kang Hao had been thrown into Jujuan prison. Earlier, the business group had heard that Kang Hao first took evidence to bargain. In a fit of rage, they caused an accident involving Kang Hao. Now that the accident didn't kill Kang Hao, they decided to deal with him directly in prison. At the last moment, a flash arrived to rescue Kang Hao. The mysterious big rat once deceived Kong Zai with billions in funds. So influenced by news, Kong Zai believed Kang Hao was the rat. They need him alive to recover the money that was swindled. Mei Hao and Kang Hao's close friends have been continuously visiting him in prison. They are unaware of the affairs officer's findings and that Kang Hao has just barely escaped death. They were informed Kang Hao refused all visitations while bureau staff prepared to leave, and Mei Hao kept receiving calls from his father. The police at the office discovered the details and insisted on keeping it hidden from Mei Hao. They found an excuse to take him out. Mei Hao, being clever, realized that there was something wrong with the conversations between him and Mei Ba. By searching Kang Hao's name on his phone, he saw the news. This woman did not back down. She trusted her husband. He intended to encourage Kang Hao through the media, inside and outside the fresh fish restaurant. Because Kang Hao had completely started running a fraudulent food stall, the mother watched Kang Hao in the news. Her eyes were numb with admiration. In the cat and mouse game, the mouse Tom plays tricks on the clumsy cat Paws battle. The legendary scammer Big Mouse is Tom's idol. To fight against his idol, he gave himself the name Mouse from Tom and Jerry, longing for Tom's attention. Tom's attention was captured by the news on television. He completely did not notice that the person just released was Kang Hao from the television. In despair, Kang Hao said he was opposing unjust teachings. He heard his wife's voice and Mei Hao accepted the media's judgment. This incredibly strong woman protected her husband, facing the camera without hesitation, believing Kang Hao was wrongfully accused. In the end, teary-eyed Mei Hao spoke a few words for Kang Hao. Mei Hao promised to quickly uncover the truth and clear Kang Hao's name. In the meantime, if her husband couldn't hold on, she wanted to draw some strength from her family. Finally, the beautiful Pants warned Chang Hao not to refuse a prison visit. The complex-faced Kan Hao took a blanket to cover his head. No one knows what he is thinking now. Next, Kan Hao underwent the first round of interrogation after the incident. Prosecutor Da Chui even employed a polygraph. Xian's big rat exhibited numerous crazy behaviors. He operates his own casino but lost hundreds of billions in others' casinos and holds a large number of strong assets. Number 3 laughed at him, saying he couldn't even pay the rent. If he really is this big rat, he'd be too pathetic. At this moment, Da Chui raised a crucial question, directly asking Chang Hao if he is the big rat. Chang Hao became nervous. Polygraphs can inevitably produce inaccuracies, and now it's a life or death moment. He doesn't want to be defeated by a misunderstanding caused by a device. Kan Hao's nervousness makes the test results increasingly unfavorable for him. Lao Hu coldly watches him through the interrogation room's special glass. Back in prison, Chang Hao directly confronts Juchuan Hospital's trio again. Number 3's big scam. They embezzled the money and attempted to shift the blame onto him. Subconsciously, it seems that Chen Hao Yao is not Big Rat and has no knowledge of the fraud. The business group's second reaction is that Chang Hao is very intimidating, deliberately acting down and dispelling suspicion with just a few words. This kind of eloquence perfectly matches Big Rat's characteristics. Upon returning to the cell, Tom finally realized that it was Big Rat, the idol from television. He immediately ran over to reveal the mystery's identity and swore to loyally serve the idol Chen Hao. At this moment, Hong Dai secretly met with the hospital trio, warning them not to touch Chen Hao at all. The seemingly very humble preview is monitoring the every move of these 4 individuals through a surveillance probe. Within the cramped prison, power factions are emerging, cooperating on one hand while remaining mutually cautious. At night, Hong Dai brought prosecutor Da Chui and ordered them to determine whether Chen Hao is indeed Big Rat. Additionally, they must recover the trillion yuan in backup funds. Kong Jia will help Da Chui plan a flawless political career. In this drama, everyone is double-faced. Both La Chui and Yu Zhan appear humble but quickly turn to meet their wives. It turns out the two of them are partners. Old Hu has always refused to believe that Chang Hao is Big Rat. He is now preparing to fully investigate the matter by exposing Big Rat's illegal dealings with numerous high-ranking officials. He aims to control the wealthy, domineering families who despise him. Similarly, the unfortunate Chen Hao is also looked down upon but lacks the power to retaliate, unlike Old Hu. Because of his presence, Horse in Prison is rumored to be about Big Rat. Many people still hold their opinions. Some say Big Rat is actually a woman who enjoys whipping people with a whip. Upon hearing this, other prisoners all want to be punished by Big Rat. Some say Big Rat is a macho guy resembling a horse-like creature. Various rumors have already become endless. Some prison factions plan to set up number 3 and beat him up. At that moment, a single palm strike was delivered to Long Hao. All his relatives from the same source also treated him to a lavish meal until he heard number 3's wife admit she was a big rat. Foul Nu's execution force immediately threw Yuan King to the prison wall. After being left scarred and completely disappointed with the world, Long Hao kept visiting inmates. He told number 3 that Mei Hao had fled to Juchuan Hospital to work as a nurse. He prepared to investigate which paper the deceased professor wrote that caused the hospital harm, leading main concubine to kill him. Number 3 was shocked, furrowing his brows as Mei Hao distanced herself from Qian Yangjian. The mastermind's vast powers prevented implicating loved ones. Having experienced the darkness within prison, Chang Hao no longer expected to be released. He asked someone to help deliver the divorce agreement, planning to return freedom and happiness to Mei Hao. A past incident came to Chang Hao's mind. Years ago, he failed an exam and didn't want to burden Mei Hao, so he proposed breaking up. However, Mei Hao refused to break up. He took out all the hard-earned money from working to pay for prison fees and poison. When Chang Hao was at his lowest, Mei Hao's words on his lips were, "Let's get married." Years later, Chang Hao purchased an insurance policy naming Mei Hao the person he most wanted to thank as the beneficiary. Now, this policy is finally about to be put to use. Chang Hao plans to clash with the ferocious criminals. If his personal insurance doesn't cover death in the conflict, that will be another matter. Number 3 first approached the mafia boss Lao Du, who had beaten him up last time. Number 3, who had never been in a fight before, unleashed his cold-blooded talent while provoking the opponent, delivering 4 strikes and a punch to knock Old Rabbit unconscious. The embarrassed Chang Hao had no choice but to seek the next target. He targeted a serial killer. This time, Chang Hao didn't use force, only verbal attacks. Dama, the serial killer, betrayed his birth mother and indiscriminately killed the innocent. Interestingly, what mattered to the serial killer was his mother, and he was directly berated by number 3 until he broke down and cried. Everyone was shocked. Chang Hao's consecutive actions directly turned him into the king of the prison. He walked freely, his desires unimpeded. Chang Haoping reported a fatal shooting during a prison break. He had an epiphany and vowed revenge, determined to confront the cold-blooded Yu Zhan this time. On the decided day that evening, Chang Hao began the prison break. Yu Chang left the unclear scene under surveillance and Chang Hao coldly issued commands to TP. End of this episode. Today, we continue the revenge drama Black Lawyer Episode 3, where lawyer Tam Hao becomes involved in the murder case. Falsely accused, the thriving con artist Da Lao Shu Lung Dan Lo Yi, in order not to burden his wife, decided to proactively attempt a comeback. During this prison break he was killed. With his wife in bad shape, he could receive a substantial insurance payout. Moments before the guard fired, the warden saw his face via surveillance and immediately terminated the operation, ordering local brake rigs. Having been kicked out of over 100 billion by that mysterious big rat, Yu Zhan repeatedly urged Chang Hao to stay alive to repay the money. After this failure, Chang Hao was confined to the solitary cell. After calming down, he felt pulled all over and thought of a question. It's hard to tell if the mastermind might involve his family. Even if Chang Hao wants to consider his wife's well-being, he can't afford to die now. Chang Hao worries about Mei Huai, and she diligently supports him. He secured a nurse position at Juchuan Hospital, quickly joining its first homicide case. The victims and the murderer were all people from here. They had a dispute over a mysterious paper. Mei Huai was determined to start from the source to uncover everything and clear her husband's name. On Nuji's first day, Mei Huai encountered Xiama Wei, who couldn't find time to have meals with others. Mei Huai was assigned to change the bandages of the patients alone. Mei Hui had never seen such strange phenomena at work, but while saving her husband, she ignored them. As she changed the patient's bandages, a real test emerged. A patient convulsed wildly, foaming at the mouth. Vital signs also showed serious abnormalities while she pressed the emergency call button, trying to save the patient convulsing and foaming. Meanwhile, a scene from the past played out. The doctors and nurses who heard the call were completely indifferent. On Mei Huai's side, she was administering injections and performing CPR, finally saving the person from the brink of death. She breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing sister-in-law Hu standing brandly at the door, yelled at Mei Hao Luman for saving people, and then arranged for someone to quickly apologize and explain the situation to the patients. After Aunt Hu left, Mei Hao learned a shocking piece of news from Recoit, the 7th floor where they are located. All patients have declined cardiopulmonary resuscitation, meaning they cannot receive emergency treatment and they die. When I first read this, I assumed the 7th floor was solely for terminally ill patients. Feeling helpless, their families signed agreements, nearly giving up on recovery. The next seemed completely overturned by assumption. While seeking Professor Shu's mysterious paper, I accidentally overheard hospital persuading family to change their mind. If they didn't apply to prohibit CDR, they couldn't have surgery or receive substantial compensation. It turned out that the hospital had been causing trouble behind the scenes for some reason. Mei Hao took her findings home but didn't tell her father and played it off as just another death. Consequently, Fiona remained perpetually absent-minded. Under Mei Hao's persistent questioning, she finally presented the divorce agreement, causing Mei Hao's eyes to instantly well up. She realized her husband didn't want to drag her down. Without her occasional interference preventing his confinement, he might have been imprisoned overnight to ask one question. Without you, how could your mother live longer? The next day, the prison's preview caused trouble again as Harding-Ji released prisoners based on money contributed, classifying them into classes 3, 6 and 9. High-level criminals indulged in food, drink and entertainment. Fee-level prisoners escaped to the sewers, while some VIP inmates never had to follow prison rules. The warden here is almost godlike, regularly feeding on inmates' blood. Chan Hao learned from Midi Tom about the prison's corruption and couldn't help but feel quite disgusted with Yu Zhan. As a protester was brutally beaten by the warden, strong Chan Hao rushed to save them. He planned to use the law and cooperate with Yu Zhan but forgot one crucial thing. Within the confines of the prison, the warden himself represents laws that can be arbitrarily manipulated. The captain doesn't believe, unlike Kong Zai, that Chang Hao is the big rat. At that moment, Chang Hao and Yu Zhan also wanted to test the other's identity. If Chang Hao really has significant connections, it would be perfect to tap into some profits from him. Chang Hao doesn't know what schemes Yu Zhan has in mind. The warden forcibly sent John Men to work. High-ranking inmates graciously lived with 3 intoxicated hospital staff. Hospital businessmen, holding a grudge against Chan Hao, stayed in bonded with gangster-invested old workers. After contributing both money and effort to prepare to take out Yu Zhan, the unsuspecting Chang Hao is actually playing the role of a corrupt participant. Feeling disgusted and forced to comply, before long an accident occurred. The veteran killer Finland launched an attack on Yu Gan. The warden immediately noticed the danger through monitoring. He urgently called prison guards to rescue from trying to save someone but was blocked by the old man's men. Hospital businessmen and workers coldly watched, awaiting Chang Hao's death. Fortunately, number 3, supported by survival instincts, dodged the fatal attack several times and finally held on until the emergency arrived. Chang Hao, in his evil survival, felt his mind extremely clear. He considered the hospital trio didn't frame him as the rat. If they wanted to kill and blame him, they had better opportunities with accomplices long ago. Afterwards, Yu Sham met with Sam Hao. He tended to believe Sam Hao wasn't the big rat. His words were all probing attempts, and as a result of the next sentence, the third male character directly took the lead. He asked if San Hao's father-in-law and wife also viewed whole team's hospital killings. A hidden person cautioned Chan Hao about disasters that could destroy his family. At this moment, San Hao's face changed drastically, not to fear and shock, but became bloodthirsty and perverted. He warned the warden and his workers that if things didn't go well, they would sustain any harm. The families of the warden, Kong Zai and the hospital trio all had to join the fight. Yuzhan laughed and mocked San Hao's confidence. At this point, San Hao took his perversion to the extreme. With a stern face, he told the warden that he was the big rat. The moment Huai Yin fell, the paper cup filled with steaming coffee could easily be crumpled into a ball. After all this, Chang Hao understood one thing. He must now disguise himself as the big rat, otherwise he would have no leverage against the enemy supported by the Federation. His beloved wife might also be implicated and starved to death. San Hao is striving to disguise himself as the big rat for Mei Hao's safety while Mei Hao is being investigated by the prosecution. Meanwhile, Mei Hao endeavored to clear Chang Hao's name, asserting her husband was innocent. The couple drifted apart. After the investigation concluded, Mei Hao reminisced about their shared pursuits. After a breakup, Mei Hao drowned her sorrows in alcohol. Hurt by her handsome and wealthy rival, Chang Hao, her longtime friend, couldn't bear seeing her like this. So he stayed with her until Zhuchong's people carried Mei Hao home. On the way, Mei Hao made a move while drunk. Despite being so intoxicated, she still maintained her good image. She warned San Hao that if he dared to watch her vomit, she would kill him directly. Distressed by Mei Hao's unborn child and years of repressed love, Chang Hao confessed his feelings. Mei Hao, crying, looked at him and said, "But my star-like face resembles Li's daughter. It feels unfair." Chang Hao immediately argued, "I'm not bad either. Look how much I resemble Li Zhongsok on that snowy night." The down-and-out version of Li Zhongsok was together with Lin Yue. Mei Hao watched step by step as Chang Hao transformed from a distressed young man to a distressed middle-aged man. She knew the sincere yet weak fool could never be Da Lao Shu. Across the street, Lao Hu watched Mei Hao cry incessantly. After a moment of silence, he went home. Today was a special day, and some people wanted to prepare for pregnancy during this time. Unable to conceive, Lao Hu and his wife grew weary. Lao Hu said, "Not having children is enough with Sister Hu," and declined tonight's breeding work. Sister Hu remained silent. At this point, Lao Hu brought up Professor Xu's thesis. Sister Hu said that the thesis was non-existent and never happened. Lao Hu sighed, and the atmosphere between the couple became a bit awkward. The next day, prison experienced a major riot and was ostracized from the third handling escapees. He observed other prisoners' resentment over the poor quality meals. To establish himself as the big rat, Chang Hao directly led the protest. Yu Jing from Guolai Juzi was also doused with pure natural human fertilizer. This time, even Yu Jiang's intervention was ineffective. He maximized his acting, completely portraying himself as a bloodthirsty big rat. He whispered into Chang's ear, "Either you help me get some meat or I'll report all your family members." The three-member hospital group unfortunately realized that San Hao was the big rat and wanted to eliminate him. Hong Zai believed Chang Hao was the big rat and wanted to protect him. Now Yu Zhan couldn't determine whether such a perverted San Hao was the real one. Out of caution, he ultimately chose to compromise with San Hao. People cheered excitedly, shouting to follow Brother Hao and beef strips. At this time, Mei Haobin kept running over and Tanjiang consistently left the villainous world to them. One reason was that the smell produced by Chang Hao was too overpowering. True love overwhelmed the foul odor, and Mei Hao, disregarding the strong gas emanating from Chang Hao, directly launched an attack. This time there was only one stand: never abandon their own smelly man. The reason was simple: if Mei Hao himself is in prison now, he believed that Chang Hao would never abandon him. Mei Hao gave Chang Hao a strong injection. He decided to carry out his big rat persona to the end. To regain his subordinates, the first thing he did was have Tom send out a message. The big rat San Hao could help prisoners in the penitentiary fulfill wishes beyond escaping. Unfortunately, very few believed in San Hao. This included San Hao Najing from the labor camp team leader Chen Gun Pan Touyu. Pan Touyu didn't really believe that Chang Hao was the big rat, but his daughter's disappearance made him too desperate as a father. He arrived with enthusiasm, providing his daughter's details. Previously, bedridden Ren Huazaran Rao, broken by Cicada Hao's scolding, also came. His mother was diagnosed with leukemia, had surgery, and the cancer relapsed. Currently hospitalized at Zhuchuan Hospital, Chang Hao also left information about his elderly mother. On the other side, Mei Hao is sharing her discoveries with Mei Bao. Doctors unanimously claimed the deceased Professor Xu had poor character and plagiarized papers, but nurses and patients highly regarded him. Not far away, the young master Dian Zhao took a second look at Mei Hao's office, the very place where Director Hu's sister-in-law had contacted Mei Hao, discovering she is Kahan's wife. Upon sensing a secret probe, Sister Hu denied any hospital suspicions. Mei Hao remained firm. "If you don't admit it, I'll investigate." Facing Sister Hu's pressure, Mei Hao did not resign. She brought up labor laws, saying it was time she fought for herself, and worked hard to find concrete evidence before Sister Hu found an excuse to start an investigation. After Mei Hao left Sister Hu's office, Sister Ding pleaded with her to save her husband, explaining the hospital wouldn't permit transfers and they could only register in the city. A colleague approached Mei Hao for a quick scan and then hurried away, telling him that Dian Zhao is seriously ill and not to take his words to heart. Outside the prison, undercurrents surge with mystery. Inside, it remains incomplete. The scent of blood approached, signaling a full-scale attack. The hospital's assault team bribed the warden with a large sum and planned to kill again. The plan was that as long as the warning was delayed a bit, they could get 300 million. In the end, the plan was moved by Finland, who had previously acted once and brought more people to play the long horn. Thankfully, with Bang Tuyu leading the protection of Chang Hao, I didn't expect the real killer was someone else. It turned out to be that serial murderer, the sick kid, Pan Tuyu, even at critical moments. He placed all his hope of finding his daughter on Chang Hao, risking his own injuries to save Chang Hao. Chang Hao is Dali Cheng's Tri-Fei, and on one side is the barely alive Bang Tuyu, and on the other side is Vendian Da Shao, and Chang Hao's expression on his face gradually turned cold. That's it for this episode. Today we'll continue with the revenge drama Black Lawyer episode 10. Last time, the unnamed lawyer Can Hao got involved in a dangerous case. He was first falsely accused of fraud like you and then continuously targeted for assassination. Thanks to Bang Zhangtan Tu and Ping Shu's mutual rescues in prison, he repeatedly escaped danger. The warden took a bribe and initially intended to ignore the assassination attempt. Upon seeing his friend Bang Tuyu severely injured, he quickly dispatched his subordinates to warn and suppress the situation. Both sides in the fight were quickly subdued. Leader Tan Hao Deng Jieyu angrily criticized the opposing tactical team. The reason Can Hao's expression is so realistic is partly because he needs to continue pretending to be a top scammer, a big rat, and partly because he was nearly killed, which made him very angry. Hugo saw it and felt inexplicably uneasy. After running around, Li Shang went to visit Pan Tuyu, who barely survived. He blamed the so-called charlatan in front of him, saying that counting on fate and heaven couldn't have saved him. He should never ever have gotten entangled with Chang Hao. At this moment, the traitor Yicheng prison guard stepped forward and whispered something in his ear. Next, something eerie happened. Both sides involved in the brawl were arrested. As a result, one side was collectively released. When the news reached the hospital's trio, they were furious beyond measure. Premature interference in Can Hao's assassination caused the operation to fail once. Although Ri Chang despises the hospital trio, he avoided declaring war openly. He explained that the day's assassination was extremely violent and a single mistake could have led to multiple deaths. Higher authorities would dispatch an investigation team, while Yu Zhan's aide would assist the hospital's new head. High-ranking doctor deems Can Hao a major rat, fiercely protecting him from death, while the driver avoids conspicuous actions and the hospital's injury team remains wary of Quang Zai. They had no choice but to abandon pursuing Yu Zhan at that moment. Then Yu Zhan made a shift, pledging that such acts as suicide could happen once and then again. The hospital's business group believed the warden would continue permitting Can Hao's assassination, rejoicing immediately. Battles in the prison gradually shifted from open to covert. The conflicts outside a prison were gradually brought to light. Mei Hao, whose identity was exposed, was targeted by the head nurse, who administered an incorrect dosage of injection to Mei Hao. Mei Hao reverted to normal dosage while injecting patients, leading to incorrect doses and near accidents. The electronic medical record shows the normal dosage was reverted. Although it seemed the good was ruined when the lion was chased away, Mei Hao was prepared for this critical moment. He used the pre-recorded screen to show his initial instructions had the wrong dosage, drastically altering the head nurse's expression. Fortunately, a broadcast announced a dean-led large meeting was about to begin. Deputy Mayor quickly shifted the topic, directing everyone to the meeting. Hospital investigations continued, while Mei Hao, weary of stalled probes, still guarded against shadowy threats. So he went all out, abandoning his trump card, and during the sweeping meeting, he suddenly stood up. He also held the crucial papers of Professor Xu. For a moment, whispers ceased as Mei Hao baited himself to uncover the hospital's internal matters. This move backfired immediately. When leaving Shanxia after work, a masked man shadowed him. With increased police presence, Mei Hao became more alert, often mistaking passers-by for stalkers during his commutes. The real stalker was not slow and followed him from a distance. Mei Hao, with nerves on edge, was once startled by Mei Ba. At that moment, Mei Hao received a call from Mayor Old Hu. The caller got straight to the point, asking about the paper. Kang Hao had become embroiled in the current chaos because he accepted Old Hu's commission. Mei Hao immediately used the paper as leverage to arrange a casual meeting with Old Hu the next day. After hanging up, he didn't reveal where my daughter went to draft the paper for Old Hu. Smiling mysteriously, Mei Hao told the two women returning home that he already had a plan. Then, the mysterious masked man reappeared slowly. The next day, Mei Hao met Old Hu. He was afraid he didn't have a thesis, so Old Hu turned his head and left, then unleashed a barrage of things he wanted to say. Mei Hao suspected Professor Xu's thesis linked to the hospital's odd CPR ban. The hospital's efforts to prohibit rescues and pay patients' families were strangely pervasive. Upon hearing Mei Hao's suspicion that Sister Hu knew the name of the thesis, Old Hu immediately interrupted, expressing his full trust in his wife. Their first meeting thus ended heavily. At this moment, on Jin Yu's side, beneath the town facade, a new round of dangers was approaching. When Tan Hao went to visit a patient, Han Toyu clearly indicated that his frantic rescue efforts were because he desperately hoped that the big rat of Can Hao's 4 needles could help him find his daughter. At that moment, when asked whether Chang Hao was indeed a rat after all he had been through, Chang Hao was no longer. He did not easily let his guard down or show any flaws despite being saved. He firmly insisted that he was indeed the big rat. After the confrontation ended, Chang Hao encountered Yu Zhan when he left. Subsequent events shocked Chang Hao. During confinement, empty space-time made self-nomination murder rare. Finland, intending to assassinate Chang Hao, died inside. The captain, aware of Finland's grudge, subconsciously suspected Chang Hao. This also meant that he had to accept that Chang Hao was indeed the all-powerful Big Rat. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to kill someone during confinement. There were many others who shared He Yuzhang's thoughts. Previously, Kan Hao had promised to release people to win hearts. Xiao Shengwei stated that after he died in Finland, few sought him, while many came to make wishes, elevating Kan Hao's status to Aladdin and significantly enhancing his reputation. While doing pull-ups, people desperately flattered him behind his back. Kan Hao's plan had begun, and assassin Kong Zai arrived at prison. He demanded from Kan Hao to return the deceived Fresh Arts staff. Kan Hao visited Kong Zai, questioning why he was assumed to have money. Fan Hao's Tai Chi had no substance. Hong Zai is not a fool. He knew Da Lao Su's illegal goods business kept a ledger. Immediately, he told number 3 to identify the 5 clients with the most transactions to confirm Da Lao Su's identity. Fan Hao reluctantly maintained he would never betray his clients. Hong Zai gave him an ultimatum, giving him until this weekend. If by then Kan Hao still couldn't name 5 clients, he would betray Ding Chengdao's brand goods, leaving only Route 10 and one other. On the way back to the corridor room, he called Yu Jingying and snatched the other party's phone. Immediately, a call from Hu's side rang. Fan Hao repeated the recent conversation to the other party word for word. He now suspects that Da Lao Su deceived Gongzi, and because of the dosage, the other party's furious retaliation led him to find Chang Hao, such a scapegoat. In the evidence confiscated by Jiang Fang, there was a list of drugs without payload. At that moment, Chang Hao could only ask Old Hu to help get the list, but Old Hu didn't respond and directly hung up the phone. He sent his subordinates to watch prosecutor Da Tree Hong Zai to see if Chang Hao would speak by comparing the lists. This indicates he saw the list from the prosecution side. Suspicions of Da Tree's betrayal and delusion in Gongzi's case were protected. Meanwhile, Chang Hao ended a call with Old Hu when something occurred. The 2 prisoners who accompanied Finland to assassinate Kan Hao were terrified, fearing they'd soon be eliminated by the big rat like Finland. They dared to consider their release for treatment. As a result, when these 2 went to the cafeteria to eat, they suddenly convulsed all over and turned into zombies. No, they spewed foam from their mouths and showed serious signs of poisoning. After a short while, they followed Finland's footsteps, shifting the blame for the killings back to Kan Hao. Furious, Yu Chang retrieved surveillance footage and discovered the 2 prisoners had been poisoned the night before the incident. Unfortunately, the surveillance did not capture the drugs they brought. The Yue family immediately led people to storm Kan Hao's cell to search through it, but still did not find the lethal drugs. Prisoners in other cells peeked to watch the commotion. The warden's warnings failed. With one glance from Kan Hao of the anti-theft department, all bowed their heads. The new prison king has just been appointed. The warden was not dismissed because of this. He told Kan Hao that only by presenting the list could the identity of the big rat be confirmed. 4 days later was Kan Hao's time. Now, the usually aloof Kong Zai humbly imprisoned a mysterious old master. The old master was furious after Gong Zai scammed him for over 100 billion and refused to see him. Hong Zai also saw an earlier visitor. Under Mr. Hu's request, the old master orders Kong Zai to help Lao Hu advance into the central political arena. The fearless Kong Zai could only keep one Fang Bu hidden in his heart. Yearly Kong Zai, at a banquet arranged by Lao Hu, helped Baji exert influence from all sides. This fragile facade didn't last long. In the bathroom, Hong Zai and Lao Hu encountered each other and erupted into a fierce conflict. Feng Zai believes Lao Hu is merely a blemish he supported to rise to power. Now this dog is breaking free from his restraints bit by bit. Lao Hu himself simply doesn't want to continue associating with scum like Feng Zai. As Kong Zai planned to resign as director and enter the political arena, he smiled meaningfully after Lao Hu left, appearing ready to secure evidence that might split Lao Hu and the old master. At night, Mei Hao and Mei Ba set a trap and caught the stalker. Unexpectedly, the person was Lao Hu's secretary. Lao Hu rushed over after receiving the call. He explained that he was worried the city of Mei Hao had Professor Xu's papers in danger, so he dispatched his secretary to protect them discreetly. Then Lao Hu took out the list required by the San Hao. It appears they decided to reactivate the San Hao, this piece of paper. With the list in Mei Hao's hands, the San Hao finally restored the system. Here, a major plot twist occurs. Da Shuai and Kong Zai discussed intelligence about a skill. It turns out the list was fake from the start. This was Kong Zai's scheme. When the San Hao reveals the names on the fake list, it proves he isn't a major rat and exposes Lao Hu's collusion with outsiders. Additionally, the actions of the San Hao and the hospital businessman group impact the prison front. Spectators initiated a bet, wagering on which side could eliminate the other within a month. Chang Hao and the 3-member hospital team also joined, staking significant amounts. In a blink, Kong Zai went to Health Restaurant that day to confirm the roster. Before arrogant Kong Zai left, he visited Lao Hu to reveal Jiang Mingzhang's affairs, then swaggered away. Lao Hu called the warden to dismiss him. He Yu Chang was with the 3-person hospital team, seemingly steadfastly standing with Kong Zai's side. At this moment, number 3, who was completely unaware, walked out of the cell. He was about to face a life-and-death betrayal, but the trained prisoners cheered him on. At this moment, Number San's confidence exploded and he felt like a big rat. End of this episode. Today continues with episode 5 of the revenge drama The Dark Lawyer starring Lee Jong-soo. At last episode's start, Chan Hao faced unprecedented trouble. He was about to engage in a daring confrontation with Kom Zai, where he had to reveal the names of the top 5 buyers in mouse transactions to prove his identity as a fraudster. However, Kom Zai set up a trap for number San. He deceived Lao Hu by giving Jantahan 5 incorrect buyer names. Once number San mentions these 5 names, he would have no safe ground. After Lao Hu discovered the truth, he hurried to the prison. Unfortunately, Kom Zai did not get Lao Hu any chance to warn number San. Lao Hu could only watch helplessly as Jantahan fell into the trap set by Kom Zai. The tense betting began as Lao Hu introduced a 3-member hospital team as witnesses, while Long Number and Kom Zai placed bets. They each wrote known buyer names on paper and then announced them together. At that moment, the surroundings quieted, and everyone patiently awaited the answers. First, it was made public that Kom Zai had a Korean name combined with a foreign one, completely eliminating the possibility that Hang Wen was the correct match based on that final awkward name. The 3 members of the hospital group laughed triumphantly, having long disliked Kan Hao. As long as it was confirmed he was of no use this time, they would simply kill him. Yu Jia retrieved the note from Kan Hao's shoe. After a hard-to-read expression, he handed it to Gong Zai. Gong Zai and the 3 hospital group members behind him instantly froze. The name written by Kan Hao and Kom Zai was indeed identical without any discrepancy. This was the complete turn of events. Everyone's faces were filled with surprise. Only Chan Hao remained calm and continued to smile as usual. He took the name Gong Zai wrote, examined it briefly, and pointed out the other party had misspelt the foreign buyer's name. The news was sent back to prison, and Clan Hao camp inmates were bewilderedly elated. Especially Tom and Pantao Yu. One is the mystery of the big rat, and the other is hoping that the big rat will help find her daughter. They have a greater desire than others for Tan Hao's successful identity verification. Everyone was increasingly proud of their success in verifying Kan Hao. Lao Hu couldn't figure out how he knew the name. Just then, one wave after another arose. Now that Tan Hao had verified the big rat's identity, Kom Zai will definitely start to pursue those who were defrauded up to now. Under Kom Zai's account, the fund fraud had batterly surfaced amid the mysterious news about Kong Zai and their funds. Commanders from all sides issued a warrant for Kim Lee Gran, their fund manager. Later, he contacted the police, revealing that the big rat had stolen the money. Zhou Geshi was at Zhuo Wan Gran's stronghold when the prosecutor's office called, summoning Pan Hao to confront Gran at that moment. Actually, Gran is questioned about meeting the big rats. 5 years ago, he faced financial fraud charges and was nearly expelled from securities. At that moment, a mysterious big rat called and offered to invest heavily in Gran. This person not only provided money but also intelligence, quickly securing Gran's compliance. After Gran's reputation spread, he was elected to manage the disaster relief fund. Unexpectedly, the big rat won, and over 100 billion of the fund was siphoned off by Li Qi. Holland was scanned by the big rat regarding her fans, feeding news throughout. She only interacted once through a car window and never saw the other person's face. Big Rat discovered Kan Hao's self-verification, so to empty the account, minimal engagement with Kan Hao was needed. Gran was asked to identify Kan Hao as the big rat to swiftly proceed with the recovery of the stolen funds. Soon Chum Hao arrived at the prosecutor's office. In prison, Chum Hao confessed to being the big rat to protect himself. Upon arriving at the prosecutor's office, he immediately retracted his confession made there, but his testimony had legal effect. Carelessly, he was truly implicated in the big rat's crimes concerning what he knew. Fan Hao explained that he didn't know who had bribed him, Dudley didn't care and didn't deny anything at all. He directly let Gerlan begin identifying the big rat, leaving Gerlan startled with each accusation. He didn't dare to look Chum Hao in the eye, terrified of the powerful big rat Gerlan. After much hesitation, Gerlan finally mustered the courage to identify Chum Hao. At that moment, a sudden incident occurred. He is a diabetic who needs to inject insulin regularly. However, this injection not only failed to save his life but also caused Gerlan to format the mouth and lose his life. Hong Zai, closely monitoring the interrogation, was furious. Old Hu displayed a determined expression. Gerlan's death was again like a big rat eliminating witnesses. The terror index of this mysterious criminal soared rapidly. Later, Kom Zai suspected that Kao Wan's wife Maid Wok was his accomplice and likely the world's second most dangerous person after the big rat. Moreover, the woman claimed to possess Professor Shi's research papers and decided to attend his conference. At this moment, Maid Mo was not well received in the hospital because of her husband. In order to save her husband, she tried hard not to mind the colleagues' ostracism. On her way home from work, Ah Ging, whom she had previously helped, appeared. After watching Directive News interview on the big screen and reflecting deeply, this person's jewelry-designed family recalled that before Professor Yu passed away, he had asked Ding Chao to custom make a cross necklace holding a USB drive. Now Aunt Hu in the interview was wearing a cross necklace. At this moment, Mabel passed by to greet Ding Xiao, but Ding Xiao ignored her, quickly walked away and made a phone call. Immediately, Mei Huo received a call. On the other end, Kom Zai invited her to meet. The wealthy Kom Zai reserved an entire private room in the restaurant. Having Ma Wei present facilitated his secret conversations during dinner, which focused solely on inquiring about Professor Xu's paper's whereabouts. They used the restaurant number to investigate the big rat buyer and enjoy a hearty meal. Earlier, Chang Hao had planned to disguise himself as the big rat to survive. Despite suspicions, Mei Hao's trust in her husband remained unshaken. She helped Chang Hao act, using Futi's identity to negotiate with Kong Zai. She adopted a tough stance, pretended to hold the paper, but ultimately refused to give it to Kong Zai. Kong Zai, misled and wary of Mei Hao's identity, avoided rash moves while Lao Hu silently eavesdropped from the shadows. After their conversation went poorly, Kong Zai left and immediately called Lao Hu. He believed Lao Hu had transferred the buyer list to the restaurant number, which pleased Mei Hao. Chang Hao's lack of involvement with the big rat remained hidden. Lao Hu listened silently on the phone, expressionless. On the other side, Chang Hao's trusted assistants Mei Ba and Yi Ji investigated Professor Xu's relationships. His call records were mainly work-related, and his wife was abroad, straining their marriage. Rumors depicted him as a complete lone wolf, but fortunately, his social media profile picture revealed a flaw. Professor Xu, who frequently went fishing, always had someone taking photos of him. When the two visited the fishing site, they discovered important information. Witnesses claimed Professor Xu sometimes interacted with a woman. The relationship between them was odd, resembling adulterous lovers rather than a romance. Investigations outside the prison were intense, and the prison atmosphere remained hostile. Kang Hao's great success made more people believe he was the big rat. The restaurant number secured a 300 million bet from the prison trio. The opposition no longer dares to dismiss the remaining numbers casually. The first Kang Hao rose with the tide but didn't get carried away, continuing his schemes. This time, the 300 million received was mainly used to bribe officials for privileges. In the end, he also took out a thick stack of money to treat everyone in the prison to food and drinks. Even Lao Tu, a mafia boss with previous conflicts, applauded his interests. The popularity of Kang Hao reached an unprecedented high. The new king ascended the throne, but Wang couldn't eliminate Chang Hao from the north. He located the prison trio and demanded they confess to Professor Xu's murder or face mysterious death in prison. The trio obviously wouldn't agree to go to prison. They believed they had the backing of Kong Zai, and Kang Hao dared not kill them directly. Fang Hao immediately taught them a lesson and, given his high prison popularity, provided ample banknotes. Almost at the point where he could act as he pleased, Kang Hao began to aggressively pressure the prison trio. Although it wouldn't lead to death, each time it gave people an illusion of being infinitely close to death. The hell for the hospital trio had just begun when Lao Hu approached Chang Hao, starting with the sentence, "Why are you dragging me into this?" Recent events made Lao Hu very shaken, increasingly believing that Chang Hao was the big rat. Fang Hao didn't respond, but instead presented Lao Hu with a choice, help him or not. His reaction further fueled Lao Hu's suspicions. He began to consider using Mei Hao to bring down Chang Hao. Fang Hao held back, reminding himself that Mei Hao was fully supporting him from all sides. Chang Hao hid his identity as the big rat, appearing indifferent and ending with "Don't cross the line." That night, Mei Hao discovered the head nurse was secretly drawing patients' blood. He followed the head nurse all the way to the Guangji area, but was caught by Sister Hu and the hospital staff member Lao Xian. Lao Xian cooperated with Sister Hu, stating that she only saw Mei Hao in the surveillance. Sister Hu warned Mei Hao that causing trouble again would lead to firing. Fortunately, today's tracking hindered evidence collection, so Ling Song left obediently. Consequently, Sister Hu chose not to pursue further. At that time, a shocking secret about Professor Xu's death lurked in the area, best left unsaid. Meanwhile, Hong Zai's accomplices in the hospital trio were tormented by Kang Hao nearly to death. In a rage, he dismissed Mei Hao's comfort and contacted Chang Hao. Moments later, Kong Zai received a call from his wife with white funeral chrysanthemums and meal numbers that read, "If your 34-year-old wife leaves today, then 34 white chrysanthemums are just right." Chang Hao had anticipated Kong Zai would make the hospital's trio stand out. Number 3 delivered a warning to Kong Zai, whose influence extended beyond prison. Kong Zai was furious, otherwise it was for the sake of... Upon returning from the review, Mei Hao intended to consult the elder for reference, but unexpectedly, Fan Hao secretly did business with the old man, leaving both unaware of their agreement. Old Handler withdrew hospital trio's protection, forcefully capturing Fat Tiger, who handled Chu's case and coerced him to surrender via mixed surveillance. The gentle approach involved reminding Fat Tiger that supporting the driving and committing murder are different in nature. The tough approach included torture. Having experienced this, Tang Hu now compromised at that moment. At this moment, Lao Hu brought out the hypothesis that Mei Hao was using Chang Hao as the big rat, highlighting the theory entirely. To increase credibility, he even mentioned that he had given the award list to Chang Hao. As a result, Chang Hao wasn't misled. Instead, he revealed evidence against him. Witnesses and enemies related to Kang Hao mysteriously died both inside and outside the prison. Mei Hao left distraught, losing her trust in Kang Hao. While being eroded by those gruesome cases, on her way home by bus, she received another call from Mei's father. News came from the loan sharks that Kang Hao had just paid off a large debt of over $1 million. This episode ends. Today we continue with Li Zhongshuo starring in the revenge drama Corrupted Lawyer Episode 6. Last time, Su Jie was very uneasy after receiving information from Lao Hu and returning home. Many key figures had already been killed after contacting Kan Hao. Moreover, Kan Hao had just managed to repay over 100 million to the loan sharks. Mei Hao was very worried that if Chang Ren really was the top fraudster, the big rat, what would happen? It was the first time in his life that Chang Hao had such a severe shakeup. The scene shifts. This day was when Jutuan Hospital came to the prison for volunteer activities. While Kan Hao told broadcast exercises early, the warden urged prisoners to behave, strictly forbidding financial matters and immediately confining offenders. No 3 learned from his mother that the reason the previews were so cautious was because the prisoners in the jail hadn't seen the opposite sex for too long. After seeing the nurses, they would sexually assault the beds in various ways. Number 3 became bored and refused to participate in activities, while Sister Hu, Mei Hao and other volunteers took part in the event. Additionally, there were external volunteers like Kong Zai and Fat Tiger's wife. The group quickly set off together. Mei Hao kept thinking in the car about whether Number 3 was truly evil. The words that old Hu Kong Zai, Number 3, had said quickly flashed through his mind, and his expression grew increasingly serious. When the volunteers arrived at the prison, the distressed and crazed inmates immediately caused an uproar. The roar of the coral tsunami was almost driving the all-female volunteers to madness. Mei Hao remained unshaven and inquired of the prison guard whether he could meet the beast immortal today. The response was that he needed to apply through the proper procedures. Not long after, Yu Jing regretted as he recalled Mei Hao had previously come to visit Cham Hao. To win Big Rat's favor, Yu Jing secretly went to find Cham Hao to pass on the information. When Number 3 heard that his wife was also there, his first reaction was to go find her for some private time. He dressed thoroughly, instantly becoming a little white dove as in the story. But that wasn't all. Number 3 also targeted the VIP room the hospital's trio had long used. To seize the VIP room and gather with his wife, Number 3 dispatched people to capture the hospital's trio. While preparing shift rotations, he learned from Eugene that his injured wife and Master Hu had arrived. In a moment of inspiration, he chose another option, having Tom run messages promising special favors to reunite Fat Tiger and Sister Hu. After Number 3 left, Xiaofu and Da Zhong confronted Fat Tiger, questioning his closeness to Number 3. Fat Tiger tried hard to explain, and this somewhat calmed the 2 companions' excited emotions. However, the gaps among the few had already formed, no longer being on the same page. The next scene was both spectacular and utterly absurd. Ton took the lead but hadn't finished sweeping, while the crowd of released people all followed suit together, directly scaring Mei Hao, who was less stunned. Immediately, the prisoners repeatedly shouted phrases like typing big rat and big sister-in-law, both of which were honored with puns, fully explaining what it means as long as I'm not embarrassed, others are. The people who released were quite malicious and the volunteers were at a loss. At this moment, Eugene came to apologize to Mei Hao, not excluding him. He voluntarily offered to take Mei Hao to meet Chang Hao without Grandpa. Since Mei Hao was here, everyone, citing only awkwardness, granted him a special exemption from volunteer work. When Mei Hao set out to meet Chang Hao, the prisoners began to heckle one after another. Having already walked through the underground corridor of U1, Mei Hao finally arrived at the VIP room of the hospital's long-term developed trio. This scene before him made Mei Hao's heart skip a beat. Chang Hao had prepared a lavish meal waiting for him. After letting Yu Jing leave, he was about to give Mei Hao a good hug but was pushed away instead. At that moment, Mei Hao began to suspect her husband's true identity. As Chang Hao became more prosperous, Mei Hao felt he was a big rat and could no longer bear to ask. The atmosphere between the couple instantly grew tense. Now, Shan Hao's vigilance-type Rama VIP room was equipped with various monitoring devices. Therefore, Shan Hao devised a plan to take his wife to the sports field, explaining that the space is vast and difficult to monitor. Only a few cameras upstairs were quietly supervising everything on the ground, and feeling frustrated, he took off his earphones. After ensuring temporary safety, the references did not sufficiently explain his own baffling experiences. Not long ago, he obtained the buyer list for Big Mouse from Lao Hu. Just after the name was released, he was ambushed and stunned from behind by Lei. Later, Tom awakened him. At that time, Number 3 had suspected that Tom was the attacker, but Ayun had no evidence and had to temporarily let it go. When Chang Hao tried to check the notes on himself, he was surprised to find an extra tarot card in his pocket. On the back of the card was written the real buyer list. The number reference could not easily determine the authenticity of the continuation list. He retrieved the tarot cards from a well and found the one he received. From the sorcerer's message, he understood it meant to convert goods into fortune and begin anew. Governor's suicide and Number 3's salute became corpses. A tarot card symbolizing death was discovered at the scene. There are not many people with such power in prison. Chang Hao had already suspected Big Mouse. Plus, Old Hu urgently rushed to find him, finally determining that Old Hu's list of buyers had a problem. Only then did he extensively write down the buyer list from the tarot cards. Chang Hao informed Mei Hao that the Big Rat was instructing him through tarot cards with the latest message to uncover the murderer in Professor Xu's trial. Chang Hao's detailed explanation gained his wife's trust. Mei Hao doesn't want her husband to be implicated and hopes that the buyer number would confess some grudges this morning. The buyer number bitterly told Mei Hao. When he becomes useless, the Big Rat will kill him. The other party is secretly plotting. Fortunately, Chen Hao isn't always passive. He pretends to have excellent handwriting. He displayed large writings in prison that pointed to the Bible, and the other party promptly added the number 1 tarot card to it. affirmed the buyer number's performance. Now he has contacted the Big Rat and plans to swiftly reveal the other party's identity. Mei Hao feels deeply guilty about the buyer number suspecting her. I promised buyer number to uncover the truth about Professor Shu's case, and after meeting, Mei Hao continued volunteering. He discovered something very strange. The head nurse split Fan Lun Meng's blood into red and blue labels. It was clear to just agree to send it for testing, but the head nurse's abnormal behavior made Mei Hao suspicious. At this moment, Fat Tiger saw Tiger's wife. When she arrived, she eagerly sought happiness, but Fox's wife immediately pushed her hand away. He wondered if his wife had someone else and why she had been unreachable earlier. After Sister Hu provided a thorough explanation, Han Hu nervously began to confess again. When he hugged Sister Hu, her hands were tightly moving in circles. The scene left audiences both amused and exasperated. There are many ways for a husband to let his wife take the spotlight, such as Can Hao, who uniquely acts as the prison boss. At lunchtime, as soon as Chang Hao appeared, he was greeted with cheers from the diners. Then Can Hao commented on the colleagues who volunteered alongside Mei Hao. Some had changed names or had husbands in prison. Can Hao showcased her intelligence by warning nurses and doctors not to provoke his wife. When Mei Hao's turn came, Chang Hao instantly wore a broad smile. Zhong Botan was truly foolish. At the end of several volunteer activities, Mei Hao noticed new wounds on Sister Hu and immediately realized that the other party had encountered trouble when meeting Fat Hu Su. He intended to help Sister Hu by reporting Fat Hu to authorities, but she coldly rejected Mei Hao for her own reasons. At that moment, Kong Zai's wife Ping Liu Hai proposed holding a rally tonight. He volunteered at the prison to impress the mysterious old master but forgot to take photos today and can't attend Mei Hao tonight as he's busy investigating the case and had to exit the car halfway. The mysterious old master finally appeared with Hong Zai and old Huzi, the two influential figures, serving as his henchmen. Gong Zai sought to persuade the master to arrange medical parole for 3 people at the hospital. Unfortunately, the old master disagreed with Judge Park, who oversaw the case. Consequently, old Hu stepped in, saying he and Judge Piao, a city schoolmate, could advocate on their behalf. Seeing old Hu earned the master's favor, Hong Zai instantly felt burning resentment. That night, when Mei Hao returned to the hospital, Dian Sao called her. This person mistakenly took Can Hao as Big Rat and, needing money urgently, sought a deal with Mei Hao. On the rooftop, Dian Sao claimed to direct Professor Shu's paper location to gain credibility. He also stated that the paper was inside a woman's cross necklace. The next second, Dian Sao, in panic, looked back. The scene shifts as Meiba hurriedly rushes to the hospital where, not long before, Dian Sao had fallen to death in front of Mei Hao. Mei Hao, recovering from shock thanks to Ling Guan's intuition, recalled Dian Sao had recently observed Hu Shao's judgment. Coincidentally, Hu's sister-in-law had a cross necklace. Mei Hao quickly had his father download her interview while rushing to the Ping Liu Haifang party and read in the bathroom that Hu Shao acted. Looking into the mirror, Mei Hao repeated what the store manager said, and the result was unexpected. I didn't dare let him inspect the necklace. More importantly, the necklace is fine and can't hide anything at all. This relic was left by Hu San's mother, not given by others. After Mei Hao and Hu's sister-in-law hurriedly departed, the camera focused on the woman's foot in the partition. The answer was quickly revealed. Mei Hao called old Hu to confirm that Hu's sister-in-law's necklace was a relic from her mother. Suddenly, a twist occurred. A second familiar face appeared in the Maibach interview. He is the whistleblower wearing a cross necklace. Mei Hao and old Hu analyzed its design using Dian Sao's relic theory, confirming that Hu's sister-in-law was the woman involved with Professor Shu. Meanwhile, Chang Hao used the Bible to contact the informant, hoping they would help halt the hospital group's medical parole. Upon receiving a reply requesting he resolve Can Hao himself, Chang Hao showed a serious expression. Soon after, the hospital's 3-person group regained their freedom through external operations. A wave of reversals arise immediately. Though Lao Tu appears to side with Tan Hao, he's secretly part of the hospital trio. With the hospital team free, Lao Tu is set to let go and engage Can Hao in a major battle. Additionally, Can Hao secretly recalled Fat Tiger, but Xiaofu and Da Xiong had already discovered it. At this point, the list for illegal medical treatment does not include Pan Yu, and the traitor was arrested by the warden. At this point, it's very obvious that those fence-sitters have realigned with the strong side. Can Hao coldly watched these arrogant people leave, then laughed on the radio and said, "You've all been fooled, idiots." Tom beside him was left stunned. That's the end of this episode. Today we continue with episode 7 of the revenge drama The Sinister Lawyer, starring Lee Jong-suk. In the last episode, aside from Fat Tiger, the other 2 hospital trio members were granted medical parole. Today was Yu Chang's day off, and major prison forces departed, leaving the remaining inmates lonely. Lao Du, well connected with Tan Hao, repeatedly infiltrated a class and joined the opposing side to monitor Tang Hu. Surveillance have banned him from approaching Chang Hao. Furthermore, Lao Du did one more thing. He took Fat Tiger to the church. Fat Tiger still thought he already kept him locked up when the boss was angry. Consequently, he repeatedly begged the senior apprentice to help him reach a vacant area where no one would urgently send him out. Suddenly, an incident occurred and the boss issued a warning and turned off surveillance. Ling Wan and the field deputy used plastic everywhere to prevent blood splatter and tied up Fat Tiger to make it easier to handle. Fat Tiger realized in horror that the old man wouldn't let him out. He would only take him up. Unfortunately, Fat Tiger's mouth was even gagged, leaving him no chance to call for help, seeing his life in jeopardy at the critical moment.